The night was silent. No wind, no sound of life. Only a faint cry, hidden deep under the cold ground of a faraway world. It was the cry of a child. A little alien girl. Her small hands pressed against the soil above her. Her body weak. Her breath short. Her voice breaking. She was buried alive. Her stepmother's hands had thrown the dirt over her. Her cruel laugh was the last sound the girl had heard before the darkness closed around her. Now there was only silence, heavy and endless. The little girl's tears mixed with the dust on her face. She whispered into the soil, into the emptiness. "Please, someone, hear me." Her world had no one left who would listen. Her father, the only one who loved her, was gone. The stepmother hated her. The people feared her strange glowing eyes. She was unwanted, alone, but the universe is vast. Her cry was not only a sound. It was more. It was energy. It was sorrow turned into a wave that traveled across the stars. It crossed clouds of dust, broken moons, and endless space. It kept moving, searching, reaching. Far away on a small blue planet called Earth, a man suddenly woke in the middle of the night. His name was Daniel. He was not a hero, not a soldier, not a king. He was just a man who worked hard, came home tired, and slept in a small apartment. But this night was different. He sat up in his bed, heart beating fast. His skin was cold with sweat. He had heard something. Not outside, not inside, but deep. Inside his head. It was a cry. Soft. Weak. But filled with pain. He looked around his room. The clock showed 2:15 a.m. The city was silent. Only the hum of faraway cars broke the quiet. Daniel whispered to himself, "What was that?" But the answer came again, the cry, this time stronger. It was like a voice pressing against his soul, like a hand reaching out through the darkness. He held his head and closed his eyes. He saw a flash. A little girl. Not human. Her skin pale, her eyes glowing like two tiny stars. And she was trapped. Her lips moved, but no air came out. Still, Daniel felt the word inside him. Help. He jumped back in shock, breathing hard. He had never seen her before. He did not understand how, but he could feel her pain as if it were his own. "Impossible," he whispered. "Just a dream, just a dream," but it did not stop. The cry grew sharper, cutting through his chest. It was not a dream. It was real. Daniel stood by his window, staring at the night sky. The stars looked ordinary, but he now felt something he had never felt before, as if one of those stars was calling him. As if somewhere beyond the black sky, a life was depending on him. He pressed his hands against the glass. "Who are you?" he asked the night. "Why me?" The only reply was another cry, faint, fragile, but filled with desperate hope. Daniel could not explain it. But deep in his heart he knew, if he ignored this voice, the child would die. Sleep did not return to him. All night he sat in his chair listening, feeling, shivering, and every hour the cry came back. Sometimes soft like a whisper, sometimes loud like thunder in his chest. It was alive. It was real. By morning, Daniel's eyes were red, his hands shaking. He drank coffee, but the taste was bitter, useless. He could think of nothing else. Only that child. That cry. On the subway, surrounded by strangers, he suddenly heard it again. The cry burst through the noise of the train, sharper than all the sounds around him. Daniel grabbed the seat tightly. He saw her again in his mind. The small alien girl. Her eyes glowing, her hands pressing against the earth above her. Her voice breaking inside him. "Help me," his heart ached. He wanted to run, to shout, to dig the ground himself. But how? Where? She was not here. She was far, so far away, yet he could feel her as if she were right next to him. Her fear became his fear. Her pain became his pain. Her hope became his burden. By nightfall, Daniel knew one thing with certainty. This was no dream, no madness. It was a call meant for him. He was the only one who could hear her, the only one who could answer. As he lay in bed once again, the cry filled the room. This time it was louder than before. This time he felt his chest burning with her voice. He closed his eyes and whispered back, "I hear you." The cry stopped. For a long moment there was silence. Then, soft as a breath, he heard her whisper, "Don't leave me." Daniel's heart froze. He understood. He could not escape this. Her cry had crossed the stars. It had reached him, and now his life would never be the same. Daniel could not sleep. Even with his eyes closed, even with his body tired, the sound was there. The cry. The soft, trembling voice of the alien girl. It was no longer just a sound inside his head. It was becoming a part of him. Every breath he took carried her pain. Every heartbeat echoed her fear. At work, his hands shook as he tried to type. His boss shouted his name, but he barely heard. The office lights were too bright, the noise too loud. Because beneath all of it, her cry kept calling, "Help me, don't leave me." Daniel pressed his palms to his ears, but it made no difference. The sound was not around him. It was inside him. When he looked at the mirror in the restroom, he almost dropped to the floor. For a moment, his reflection was not his own. Instead, he saw her. Her face pale, her eyes glowing with desperate light, her lips trembling. She was looking back at him through his own eyes. He staggered backward, heart pounding. Then, as suddenly as it came, the vision was gone. Only his own tired face stared back at him. But Daniel understood something new. This was not just a dream, not just a random cry. This was a connection. Somehow, across the endless void of space, her spirit had reached his. That night, Daniel did not fight it anymore. He sat in silence, closed his eyes, and listened. The cry came, soft at first. But this time, Daniel did not push it away. He followed it. It was like walking into darkness. At first, he saw nothing. Only shadows, only emptiness. Then slowly, a shape began to form. The ground was black and broken. The sky heavy with gray clouds. And there, beneath the soil, he saw her. The little alien girl. Her tiny body wrapped in rags. Her arms too thin, her face covered in dirt. Her eyes glowed faintly like dying stars. She looked at him, not with fear, not with hate, but with a fragile hope. "You can hear me," she whispered. Her voice echoed in his chest. "You are not like the others, please. Save me." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to reach out to pull her free, but his hands touched only air. He was not really there. He was seeing her world through the bond, but he could not touch it. "Not yet, where are you?" Daniel asked. "How do I find you?" Her lips moved, but the answer was lost in a storm of sound. Dark winds rose around them. The vision cracked like glass, and suddenly he was back in his room, heart racing, hands shaking. The bond was growing, he knew it. Soon he might be able to cross, but how? The days that followed turned into torment. He could no longer live normally. At the store, he heard her cry between the voices of strangers. On the train, he felt her heartbeat beneath the rumble of the wheels. Even in his dreams, she was there, buried, begging, waiting. Daniel began to draw. On scraps of paper on the walls of his apartment, anywhere he could. He drew her face, her glowing eyes, the broken ground, the strange symbols that flickered in his visions. His neighbors thought he was going mad. Maybe he was, but he did not care, because every line he drew, every symbol he traced, pulled him closer to the truth. One night, as rain beat against his window, Daniel's hands moved without thought. He drew a circle, then lines, then symbols he did not know, but his hand knew. When he finished, he stepped back in shock. It was not just a drawing. It was a map of stars. He stared at it for hours, his heart thundering. Somehow she had guided his hand. She was showing him the way, but the map was not complete. One piece was missing, one key to unlock the path, and then he heard it again. Her voice weaker than before. "Daniel, hurry. Time is running out," and he froze. She knew his name. How? He had never told her. He had never spoken it aloud in the visions. But she knew. She was inside him just as he was inside her. Daniel sank to his knees, trembling. This was no accident. No random connection. It was fate. He pressed his hand against the drawing on the floor. "I'll find you," he whispered. "I don't know how yet, but I promise, I'll find you." The air around him grew cold. The lights flickered. For a moment, the symbols on the paper glowed faintly like fireflies, and then in the silence came her reply. "I will wait, but not for long." The sound of her voice faded, leaving Daniel alone in the dark. But he was no longer afraid. He knew the truth now. The connection was real. The map was real. The girl was real. And somewhere beyond the stars, she was waiting for him. Daniel could no longer pretend to live a normal life. Every day the girl's cry grew weaker. Every night her voice shook more, fading like a candle in the wind. He knew what it meant. Time was running out. The map he had drawn covered the floor of his apartment. Circles, stars, strange marks he did not understand. But somehow, when he looked at it, he felt it. Not with logic, not with reason, but with his heart. The girl had guided his hand. The map was her gift, and now it was calling him just as she was. One evening, the city power went out. The streets fell into darkness. In the silence, Daniel lit a candle and stared at the map. The flame trembled. And then something happened. The ink on the paper began to glow. Soft golden light crawled along the lines like fire spreading through dry grass. The symbols pulsed like a heartbeat. Daniel froze, his breath caught in his chest. The glow grew brighter, brighter until it filled the entire room. And then silence. The air split with a sound like tearing cloth. A dark line opened in front of him, stretching into the air. It widened slowly like a mouth opening. Inside it was no light, no warmth, only a swirling tunnel of shadows. Daniel's heart hammered. He knew what this was. A doorway. A path between worlds, but it was terrifying. One step and he might never return. One step and he might walk straight into death. Still, he heard her cry again, faint but clear. "Help me." Daniel clenched his fists. He had no weapon. No armor, no plan. Only a promise. He stepped forward. The world around him vanished. Cold wind tore at his skin. His ears rang with strange whispers, voices not human. He felt as if he were falling and floating at the same time. Shadows reached for him, but he pushed forward, teeth gritted, heart burning. And then, light. Daniel stumbled out onto black stone. The air was sharp, heavy with ash. The sky above was red, torn with dark clouds. Strange stars glowed faintly in the distance, larger than any he had seen on Earth. He was not dreaming. This was real. He was on her world. The ground beneath his feet trembled. From far away he heard low growls, beasts hidden in the shadows. The air carried a smell of smoke and decay. It was a dead place, yet alive with danger. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. The map had led him here. That meant she was near, and then he felt it, the bond. Stronger than ever. Her presence, her heartbeat, her fear. It was pulling him, guiding him like a compass. He began to walk. Each step echoed on the stone ground. The world around him groaned like it was alive. Sharp rocks rose like teeth and broken towers leaned against the horizon. As he moved forward, shadows shifted. Eyes glowed in the dark. Creatures watched him, silent, waiting. But none came closer. It was as if something about him kept them away. The bond. The girl's spirit was shielding him even from far below. Hours passed. Daniel's legs ached, his throat dry, but he pressed on. The pull grew stronger. He knew he was close. Finally, he reached a wide crack in the earth. The ground opened into a deep pit, glowing faintly with green light. And from within he heard it clearly. Her voice, Daniel. His chest tightened. He had never heard her say his name so clear, so close. She was down there, buried deep inside this pit. Daniel looked around. There was no ladder, no bridge, only jagged stone leading down into darkness. He swallowed hard. It was dangerous. One wrong step and he would fall to his death. But he had come too far to stop now. He began to climb. The descent was slow and painful. The rocks cut into his hands. Dust filled his lungs. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the pit itself did not want him there. But every time he thought of stopping, he heard her cry again. Soft, weak, but alive. Don't give up. Her words gave him strength. He kept going, step by step, until finally his feet touched the bottom. The pit opened into a small cavern. The walls glowed faintly with strange crystals. And in the center, half buried under soil and stone, was a small figure. The alien girl. Her body was thin, fragile, but her eyes still glowed faintly. She looked at him with shock, then hope. "You came," she whispered. Daniel's knees gave way. He fell beside her, his heart racing, his hands shaking. For a moment, he could not speak. He had crossed the stars, faced the unknown, and now, she was real, I promised. He said softly, "I'm here." Tears slipped down her dirt-stained cheeks. For the first time, her cry was not only sorrow. It carried hope. But before Daniel could touch her, before he could begin to dig her free, the ground shook violently. A voice, cruel and sharp, echoed through the cavern. "So, you are the one who hears her cry?" Daniel froze. The girl's eyes widened with fear. Her lips trembled. "She's here," she whispered. From the shadows at the edge of the cavern, a tall figure stepped forward. Her eyes burned with hatred. Her hands glowed with dark power. The stepmother. The cavern shook as the tall figure stepped closer. Her shadow stretched across the walls, long and sharp like claws. Her eyes burned with cruel fire, and her lips curved into a cold smile. Daniel's breath caught. He did not need anyone to explain. He knew instantly who she was. The stepmother. The alien girl's weak voice trembled. Don't let her take me. Daniel's hands tightened into fists. His chest burned with anger, but he also felt fear. The stepmother's presence was heavy, suffocating. It was like standing before a storm made of darkness. The woman's voice was sharp as broken glass. You don't belong here, human. Leave now, and perhaps I will let you live. Daniel shook his head slowly. His voice was low but steady. No, I came for her. I won't leave without her. The stepmother's smile vanished. Her eyes narrowed. You think you can take her? Fool, you don't even know what she is. You don't know the curse you are holding in your hands. Daniel looked at the girl. Her glowing eyes stared back at him, full of fear but also trust. I don't care what you call her, Daniel said. She's just a child, and I won't let her die here. The stepmother's laughter echoed through the cavern, chilling and cruel. You hear her cries because she let you in. But she has not told you the truth, has she? She's not only weak, she is dangerous. Daniel's heart raced. He glanced at the girl. Her lips pressed together, her eyes lowered. She was hiding something. The stepmother's voice grew louder, shaking the walls. Her father was a great leader, a king among our people, but he loved a woman from the stars, a stranger who did not belong. That woman gave birth to her, a child not fully of this world, a child cursed by two bloodlines. Daniel listened in silence, his chest heavy. The stepmother pointed at the girl with burning hate. Her father died because of her. The people turned away because of her, and I buried her because that is all she deserves. She should have never been born. The girl's tears ran silently down her dirty cheeks. Her small voice broke the silence. It's true. My father loved me, but when he died, no one wanted me anymore. They said my eyes were wrong. They said I brought death. She said I was cursed, and she buried me so the world would forget. Daniel's throat tightened. His hands trembled, but not with fear, with anger. He could see the truth in the girl's eyes. Yes, she carried pain, yes, she was different. But she was not a curse. She was a child who had been hated for no reason. Daniel's voice shook with fury. You call her cursed, but the only curse I see is you. The stepmother's face twisted with rage. She raised her hands and black fire crackled in her palms. The cavern glowed with her power. The girl cried out weakly, No! Daniel, you can't fight her. She's too strong. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew she was right. The stepmother was powerful, far beyond anything human. But he also knew something else. He could not turn back, not now. Not ever. He dropped to his knees beside the girl, brushing dirt from her face with trembling hands. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. I will get you out, no matter what it takes. The stepmother's power burned hotter, the cavern trembling as stones fell from above. Her voice thundered like a storm. You dare defy me? Then you will die with her. Daniel looked into the girl's glowing eyes. She was weak, broken, barely alive, yet there was something inside her. Something hidden, a spark waiting to rise. He pressed his hand gently to hers, and at that moment he felt it, the bond. Not just her cry, not just her pain. Something deeper. Her power. It was faint, fragile, buried just like her body. But it was there, and it was reaching for him. The girl gasped, her eyes widening. You can feel it too. Daniel nodded. Share it with me. Whatever it is. Together we can fight her. Her lips trembled. But if I give it to you, it might hurt you, it might break you. Daniel squeezed her hand tighter. I'd rather break than leave you here to die. The girl's tears glowed faintly, shining in the dark. For the first time, she smiled through her pain. Then take it. Her small hand pressed against his chest. A surge of warmth rushed into him. His heart burned, his veins lit like fire. His vision filled with light and shadows twisting together. The stepmother's laughter stopped. Her eyes widened as she saw the glow rising around them. No, impossible. She should not have that power. It belongs to me. The cavern shook violently. Daniel's body trembled as the alien energy fused with him. He could feel the girl's soul inside his own, no longer just a cry but a flame. The stepmother screamed in fury, raising her hands to strike. The walls cracked, the ground split open. Daniel stood slowly, his eyes burning with the same glow as the girl's. He was no longer just a human. He was something more. The girl's weak voice whispered in his mind. "Don't let go. You're my only hope." Daniel faced the stepmother, his body trembling but his spirit unbroken. The battle was about to begin. The cavern burned with dark fire. The stepmother's power crackled like a storm of shadows, twisting and snapping against the stone walls. Her eyes glowed red with fury, her voice sharp as thunder. "You dare stand against me, human? You who are nothing." Daniel's body shook, his breath heavy. The girl's energy surged through him, burning his veins, making his skin feel like fire. But he did not back down. He stepped in front of the buried child, shielding her with his own body. "I'm nothing, maybe," he said, his voice trembling but strong. "But she's not, and I won't let you hurt her again." The stepmother's laughter echoed, cruel and cold. "You think you can protect her? She is mine. Her power is mine. I buried her, but I left her alive for a reason. She is the key, and you will not take her away." Her hands rose, black flames dancing in her palms. The cavern shook, dust raining down. Daniel clenched his fists, his own hands glowing faintly with the girl's light. He had no training, no weapon, no skill. Only her strength and his heart. The stepmother struck first. A wave of black fire shot across the cavern, slamming into Daniel's chest. He was thrown backward, crashing against the stone wall. Pain exploded through him, and for a moment his vision blurred. The girl cried out, "Daniel!" Her voice pulled him back. He forced himself up, coughing, blood on his lips. The glow in his body flickered weakly, but it was still there. He staggered forward again. The stepmother sneered. "Pathetic. You cannot even stand. Die quickly, and I may spare your world from her curse." Daniel spat dust from his mouth. "No, I'm not giving up." He raised his hand, and the girl's power surged. A flash of white light burst from his palm, clashing with the stepmother's dark flames. The cavern lit up like a star exploding. The walls cracked, stones split, and sparks rained down. For a moment, the powers pushed against each other, light against darkness. Daniel's legs shook, his body screamed in pain, but he held on. The girl's voice whispered in his mind, "Don't let go. I'm with you." The light grew stronger. The dark flames cracked, then broke apart in a blast of smoke. The stepmother staggered back, her eyes wide with shock. How can a human hold her power?" Daniel's chest heaved, his body trembling. He could barely stand, but he raised his hand again. "I'm not just human anymore. Not while she's with me." The stepmother's face twisted with rage. "You think you've won? Fool. You've only touched a drop of her strength. You cannot even imagine what she truly is." She slammed her palms into the ground. The cavern split open, glowing cracks spreading like lightning. From the darkness below, monstrous shapes began to rise, creatures with claws, teeth, and burning eyes. The girl screamed in terror. "She's calling the shadow beasts." Daniel's heart sank as the creatures crawled up from the cracks. Their bodies were twisted, their growls deep and hungry. They circled him, blocking every path of escape. The stepmother spread her arms wide. "Kill him. Tear him apart. Leave the girl to me." The beasts roared and charged. Daniel stood his ground. He had no weapon, no armor. But when one of the beasts lunged, his fist glowed with light. He swung, and the creature exploded in a burst of fire and ash. He blinked in shock. The girl gasped. "You're using it. You're really using my power." The other beasts snarled and attacked. Daniel moved clumsily, almost falling. But each time his fist struck, bursts of light cut through the shadows. The cavern shook with the sound of battle, growls mixing with thunder and fire. Still, there were too many. One beast slashed across his arm, leaving a deep cut. Daniel cried out in pain, nearly dropping to his knees. The glow in his body flickered again, weaker than before. The girl's small voice trembled. "Daniel, you can't hold it for long. You'll burn yourself out." Daniel gritted his teeth, sweat and blood mixing on his face. "Then I'll burn. But I won't stop." He struck again, blasting another beast into smoke. But his legs shook harder now. His vision blurred. He was reaching his limit. The stepmother watched with a cruel smile. "Yes, break yourself for her. It changes nothing. In the end, she will still belong to me." Daniel collapsed to one knee, his strength fading. The beasts closed in again. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Her tiny hand reached out weakly from the soil. Don't Give up. Her glowing fingers touched his arm, and suddenly the bond flared brighter than ever. A flood of warmth rushed into Daniel, filling every corner of him. The pain eased. The light grew strong again. He rose to his feet, his body burning with power, his eyes glowing like hers. The beasts froze, sensing something greater than them. The stepmother's smile vanished. Daniel raised both hands, and light burst from him like a wave. The beasts howled as they dissolved into ash, swept away by the force. The cavern shone bright, shadows fleeing into cracks. When the light faded, only Daniel, the girl, and the stepmother remained. The stepmother's face twisted with rage, her voice shaking with fury. No, this is impossible. You cannot defeat me with her strength. She belongs to me. Daniel's chest heaved, his fists still glowing. She belongs to no one. She is free. And I'll protect her, no matter what. The stepmother screamed, her power rising higher, black fire swirling around her like a storm. The cavern groaned, stones falling from above. Her wrath shook the earth itself. Daniel tightened his grip on the girl's hand. The battle was not over. It had only just begun. The cavern shook like a living beast. Stone cracked. Dust rained down. The stepmother stood in the center, her arms raised, her dark fire spinning like a storm around her. Her voice roared above the chaos. You dare challenge me with my husband's mistake? You think a broken child and a weak human can stand against me? Daniel held the alien girl's hand tightly. Her fingers were thin, trembling, but glowing faintly. Her eyes met his, filled with fear, but also with trust. Daniel's voice was quiet, but firm. We're not mistakes. We're not weak. Together, we're stronger than you think. The stepmother's laughter was sharp and cruel. Together? She barely breathes, and you're only alive because of her pity. Without me, she would already be dust. And without me, you will be too. She slammed her palms to the ground. Black flames erupted, climbing the cavern walls like claws. The whole chamber seemed to collapse into her fury. Daniel pulled the girl close, shielding her from falling rock. His body shook from exhaustion. His wounds burned, but his grip on her never loosened. The girl whispered weakly, You can't fight her alone. My power, it's not enough. Not in your hands. Daniel shook his head. Not mine, ours. If we fight as one, nothing can stop us. The girl's lips trembled. No one has ever said that to me before. Her eyes glowed brighter, filling with tears. Everyone called me cursed. Everyone left me, but you. You stayed. Daniel's voice cracked but stayed strong. I heard your cry. I can't unhear it. I won't walk away. For a moment, silence fell between them. Then the girl closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them, her glow was no longer faint. It blazed. Then take all of me, she whispered. My heart, my strength, my soul. If we fall together. Daniel's chest burned as the bond flared. Their hearts beat as one. Light surged through him, brighter than before, hotter than fire, purer than the sun. His wounds closed. His strength returned. His eyes glowed like twin stars. The stepmother hissed, stepping back for the first time. Her voice trembled with fury. No, she cannot give it to you. She is mine! Daniel stood tall, the girl's hand still in his. His voice echoed with hers, their words united. She belongs to no one. We belong to each other. The cavern exploded with light. The darkness recoiled, shadows ripping apart like paper. The stepmother raised her arms, screaming. But even her storm of black fire began to flicker against their combined glow. But the battle was not easy. The stepmother unleashed wave after wave of dark energy. Each strike shook Daniel to the core, forcing him back, threatening to crush him. His bones ached, his chest burned, his body screamed in pain. Yet every time he staggered, the girl's voice whispered inside his mind, Stand. Every time he nearly fell, her tiny hand squeezed his. Don't give up, and each time, he rose again. The stepmother's eyes widened in disbelief. She poured more power, the cavern collapsing around them, but still Daniel stood. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was the fastest, but because his heart would not surrender. The girl's power was no longer just light inside him. It was love. It was hope. It was the strength born when two broken souls chose to fight together. Finally, Daniel raised both hands. The light surged, brighter than ever, filling every crack, every shadow. The cavern blazed like a second sun. The stepmother screamed, shielding her eyes. This cannot be. You are nothing. Nothing. Daniel's voice boomed through the chamber, carrying both his and the girl's spirit. We are nothing alone. But together, we are everything. The ground split. The air roared. Light and darkness collided in a storm that shook the world. The girl's body trembled, almost too weak to hold on. But Daniel pulled her into his arms, shielding her from the chaos. Her head rested against his chest. Her faint whisper warmed his heart even in the middle of destruction. You're not alone anymore. And neither am I. Daniel closed his eyes as the storm raged. Even if he died here, even if this world crushed him, he knew one truth. He had answered a cry that no one else would. And because of that, he was no longer just a man. He was her protector. The storm finally stilled. Smoke filled the cavern. The stepmother stood trembling, her power burned and broken, her eyes wild with rage. You can't stop me. Even if you defeat me here, this world will never let her live. She will always be hunted. She will never be safe. Daniel stepped forward, his body glowing, the girl's light burning within him. He held her close and answered, his voice unshaken. Then I'll fight every world that tries to hurt her. I'll fight them all. The stepmother screamed, summoning the last of her power, her body shaking with wrath. The final battle was about to begin. The cavern shook like thunder. The stepmother stood tall, her body burning with the last of her dark power. Her hair flew wildly, her eyes glowing red like fire. Her voice echoed with fury. If I must fall, then I will take you both with me. Daniel held the alien girl close. Her body was weak, trembling, but her glow still burned faintly in his arms. He could feel her heartbeat inside him, slow, fragile, but alive. He raised his eyes to the stepmother. No, you've taken enough. It ends now, the stepmother screamed. Dark flames shot upward, tearing through the cavern walls. The ground cracked, rivers of black fire spreading across the stone. The air itself shook with her wrath. Daniel's body trembled under the force, but the girl's hand pressed weakly against his chest. Her whisper touched his heart. Don't let go. Daniel, you're my strength. Her words lit the fire inside him. He stood tall, his eyes glowing brighter, his veins burning with her light. The cavern filled with white radiance, brighter and purer than before. The stepmother roared in rage. Her flames clashed with his light, darkness and brightness colliding in a storm. Stone shattered, crystals burst, the earth itself groaned as if it would break apart. Daniel's legs shook. Every strike from her power felt like a mountain crushing his chest. His arms screamed in pain, his body close to breaking. But his heart did not waver. The girl's voice whispered again, soft but firm inside him. Stand for me. And he did. He pushed forward step by step, the light growing stronger with every beat of their joined hearts. The stepmother staggered back, her dark flames shrinking under the weight of their bond. No, this cannot be. I buried her. I broke her. She is mine. Daniel's voice boomed, filled with both his soul and the girl's. She belongs to no one but herself. She is not your curse. She is hope. The light burst from him in a wave. It swept across the cavern, tearing apart the shadows, breaking the flames, burning the darkness to ash. The stepmother screamed, her body consumed by the glow. Her cry echoed one last time before silence fell, and then she was gone. The cavern trembled violently. The walls cracked wider, stones crashing down, the ground splitting open. The girl gasped. She tied her life to this place. Now that she's gone, the world is collapsing. Daniel lifted her into his arms. Her body was light as air, fragile as glass. Her glowing eyes looked up at him with fear. Daniel, you'll be trapped here. You'll die. He shook his head firmly. Not if you're with me. You opened the bond. You can open the way out. Her lips trembled. I don't know how. Daniel pressed his forehead gently to hers. You do, believe it. I believe it too. Tears filled her eyes. She closed them, breathing deeply, her hands clutching his shirt. Her glow began to spread, soft at first, then brighter, wrapping them both in a warm light. The air shimmered. A tear opened in the collapsing cavern. Not of darkness this time, but of light. A doorway. Daniel's legs burned as he ran. Stones crashed behind him. Fire split the ground, shadows screamed as the world tore itself apart. But he never stopped. He held her close, his arms strong, his heart burning with only one thought. I will get her out. The cavern ceiling gave way as he leapt through the doorway. Silence. Daniel opened his eyes. He was lying on soft grass, the air fresh and sweet. The night sky stretched above, filled with stars. The earth. Home. In his arms, the alien girl stirred. Her glowing eyes blinked open. She looked around in awe. her lips parting in wonder. This it is your world? Daniel smiled, tears stinging his eyes. Yes, and now it's yours too. She buried her face in his chest, her voice trembling. I thought I would die in the dark. I thought no one would ever care, but you came for me. Daniel held her tightly, his heart aching with emotion. I heard your cry. I couldn't ignore it. I'll never ignore it. For a long moment they stayed in silence, only the wind whispering through the grass. The stars above seemed brighter, warmer, as if watching over them. The girl lifted her head, her eyes glowing softly. Daniel, what if there are others like me? Children crying in the dark, waiting, hoping. Daniel looked at the sky. He thought of the endless stars, the countless worlds. A small smile touched his lips. Then we'll find them, he said, one cry at a time. The girl's tears sparkled like tiny stars as she smiled for the first time, truly smiled. Not with fear, not with pain, but with hope. And in that moment, Daniel knew his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a man. He was a guardian, the protector of a child who had been forgotten. The answer to a cry that crossed the stars. The night stretched on, quiet and endless. But for Daniel and the little alien girl, it was not the end. It was the beginning.